Hey folks, I'm here in Copenhagen and I'm having a blast of a time. Shop shop, hola, Pops Mohamed from Copenhagen.
My guest today is Pops Mohamed, a man who has made music his life. He started off as a rock musician, but has transformed his styles or has expanded his styles to include jazz, soul, basically anything.
Yeah,
Pops,
anything.
you're a man of music. You're a professor of music. First of all, where does Pops come from?
My real name is Ismail.
Ishmael, okay.
Yeah. But as a kid, I grew up in Actonville. I was born in Actonville, Benoni. And I used to love eating a lot of spinach, like the comic character Popeye the Sailor Man. And
Your mother didn't force you to eat spinach.
No.
By choice, ate spinach.
Because I liked the man, every time when there's problems, he eats spinach and then, he gets his muscles and he goes and he does his thing. And we as kids, we always identify with something. You always fantasize with something. Like some kids fantasize with Santa Claus and all that, So the name, people called me Popeye.
Pops.
No, Popeye.
Popeye.
Popeye, that's how they called me. How the Akom Popeye.
And you started to love music from a very early age.
Very, very early age, yeah.
Mainly rock music. I read that you loved the Shadows.
Cliff Richard and the Shadows were the in thing at the time. And the Beatles, the Ventures.
Can you name the Shadows?
Hank B. Marvin, Bruce Welch.
Jet Harris?
Jet Harris, no, he's not with them anymore.
Yeah.
He left, but he's still alive.
Do you still listen to...
John Russell was the bass
No,
player.
that must have come a lot later.
No, he was just after Jet Harris, but he got electrocuted. And then it's Hank Marvin, Bruce Welch, Brian Bennett.
Still follow them?
Well, I do. I mean, those were the people who inspired us. I saw their last concert when they toured last year. They did the last concert. It's called the Final Tour, Cliff Richard and the Shadows. And they sounded, well, Hank said that this is how we wanted to sound 40 years ago. They were so good and unbelievable. Like, my God, this is like,
You're a great musician. I mean, in terms of the instruments that you play. You transformed your tastes or your love to traditional music. What's the significance of traditional music? What's the significance in a culture? Why
it's
the love?
self-explanatory,
And where did this love start, and why did it start?
As a kid, I mean, I'm a Muslim. I grew up in a very great society in Actonville where blacks, whites, Indians, and coloreds, everyone grew up together, Chinese people, there were Portuguese people, and we were multi-cultured. You know what I'm saying? I had Hindu friends, Tamil friends. We used to go to the temples of the Tamil kids. We used to learn the guitar. But in the same time, I would go to my madrasa lessons as well. And the Tamil boys would come with me to madrasa. We kids, we're innocent. There wasn't this differences about religion. It's like, he's my friend, you come to me. Go to the mosque. I said, you just watch me what I do. And there were all these influences, music that I listened to from the different cultures. We had a shop on 3rd Street where I grew up. In fact, that house, if you can go to Benoni, you'll still see the house where I was born. It's hanging like this. And there was a guy on the corner, his name was Mr. Kismet, and he used to play all these songs, this music, the Shadows, the Beatles. And every day after school, I would stand and listen, to this stuff and say, oh, this is really cool. And in those days, we had LM Radio, David Davies and Evelyn Martin. They had the top 20 every
I used to listen to LM, John Burke,
Sunday night,
David Gresham all came later.
The LM Hit Parade. He
With
presented, how many did he present? He presented 10, and Evelyn Martin presented the other 12. You remember? So I used to listen to that. We didn't have TV. But then in the same time again, there were illegal shebeens. There was a place on 4th Street, which we used to call the Honsebeck. It was a filthy place, you know. It was, you know, the toilets and everything was just filthy, so they called it the Honsebeck. And that was the hub. People used to go there. There were shebeens there. They used to drink there. And then we had the hostels.
For the mines, yeah.
From the mines. It's still there in Actonville. And strangely enough, the activities that went on that time still carrying on there. They have these gumboot dancing outside the hostel, and then you win a goat or a sheep. I see it's still on. So these people...
We used to go every Sunday. I mean, it was quite a big
Sundays,
tourist attraction.
Yeah, it's still on.
They used to, and I used to love the gumboot dance. I mean, it just stood out amongst all the other stuff.
So a lot of these people were immigrants. And they would go to shebeens and they
immigrants meaning from around areas surrounding
like Malawi,
Lesotho,
and all those places.
Yeah.
And they had traditional instruments with them, homemade instruments. So they would go to the shebeens and jam in the shebeens, especially like the Honsebeck, you know. So I would always like walk around and you check. The guys are playing traditional instruments, drinking umkomboti, you know, and having a dop, and then some guy in the corner is playing like an out-of-tune piano, like maybe the clever from the location, you know, it's just, yeah, play that, you know, just thumping along. Someone would be playing a penny whistle. But then also then there's this shebeen thing, this happening, which is illegal, because now and then the police would come and raid, and then they would, you know, it's a chaos. So when June 1976 came with the riots, uprisings, Soweto uprisings, everything changed for me. You know, everything just took a complete change. June 1976, we heard the new voice of Hugh Masekela coming in now, coming with struggle songs, you know, encouraging the people to keep on fighting. So that made me sit back and say, you know, now these guys are playing music from a different nature, and it's so relevant to what's happening. What am I doing with my rock music? You know, I also need a meaning. I want to have a new meaning to play music. If I'm going to continue music, I want to have I want to contribute to the country or to the whole world. What am I going to do? I don't want to be this pop star. And then that's when I remembered the shebeens, you know, that, all those things, you know, the sounds. I want to recreate what I heard in the shebeens, because it was illegal and those sounds were never recorded. So that's when I started doing my research on African indigenous instruments, Indian classical instruments.
We're going to have to start wrapping up, and I'm going to ask you one last question. We could go on for a long time, I know, because there's so many aspects to your, you know, to your character. There's
we'll do
your photography, your record collection, your collection of instruments, and that. But if I had to give you one area in the world as a musician that I could transport you to, and that you would like to live in and play in and exist in, where would that be?
Zanzibar.
Zanzibar. Why Zanzibar? That's an island.
It's an island. It was, I mean, we did
interesting.
I had a band, a duo band with a British girl who was my student, Zina Edwards. She had a great ear for African music, so I taught her a lot of African instruments until such a time when I felt that she was comfortable in playing. We started a band, a duo group called the Millennium Experience. And we used the Millennium Experience as a platform to launch other traditions and cultures. And we would just take a back seat and get indigenous musicians perform, and we would just perform our African instruments behind them and let the people tell their stories. We toured the world. We've been all over. I mean, we've been to like Nepal, Kathmandu, we've been to Bangkok, Vietnam, you know, you name it, Germany, all over the world with Millennium Experience. And every time when we go, we have a different culture. We have the Xhosa people, we have Zulu people, we have the San people, and we used that. So when we went to Zanzibar, Zina said to me, Pops, this is it. I mean, this is the ultimate. We've been seeing places like Aix-en-Provence, you know, we've been to Marseille, we've been to all the great New York, London, you know, and all that. But when I got to the island, man, this made all sense to me. I said, if I have to die one day, you know, if it was my wish, as much as it would be against my family's will, I think I would have loved to be buried here.
In Zanzibar.
It's just amazing, because also then as a Muslim it appealed to me, because when the call for prayer, the azan goes off, every third corner there's a mosque. And then you have the sea there, and then it just echoes into the sea and comes back to you. But the people are amazing. They have stray chickens in the bushes running around. I used to call them models, because these chickens were quite tall, long legs, you know, just going like that.
I'm just hoping that you don't go to Zanzibar quite yet. I think you're a wonderful asset for this country. Your knowledge is so extensive, and also, of course, you're a highly talented person.
One thing I'm going to say, I know you don't have much time, but at the end of this month, in Observatory here in Johannesburg, we are doing a very special concert, the 31st of October. There's only 23 tickets left. Well, that was the last on Monday since I checked. It's myself, Sipho Mabuze Hot Sticks,
Sure.
Ashish Joshi on tablas, and Purvi Bana on sitar. And we're calling the concert African Dreamtime. And that is going to reflect back to my life, the journey. And I've just come up with a name. Purvi said, so what are we going to call the project? I said, well, it's African Dreamtime, but the genre would be Afri-Indiana.
Pops, we're going to have to stop there.
Yes.
I hope your dreams are met. It's been wonderful sitting with you.
Thank you. It was really nice sitting with you too.
You've been on the couch with Pops Mohamed and me, David Shapiro.